Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, as we welcome you live out of the Johannesburg Expo Center, day 4 of the 55th ANC National Conference, and a day that really matters because today was a day where we got to know who is going to lead the ANC over the next 5 years. The top 7 have been elected, and I must say it's been quite an eventful day just being in the plenary session. And when the results were actually announced, there was song, there was dance, there was disbelief, there was shock. All these emotions were there. But to put the outcome of these elections of the top 7 into perspective, we have got with us this afternoon Queenin Masuabi, a political reporter with the Daily Maverick. Queenin, lovely you're able to join us.
Good afternoon, Inayet, and thanks for having me.
Yes, tell me, were you surprised at the outcome?
Not at all. We had an early indication that the president would be re-elected, but I think we were mostly surprised about the outcome of the chairperson position. We didn't see much of Wadee Mantashe, out there trying to convince delegates. It seemed like he was quite all year round. He was quiet. He was just in his office, and then all of a sudden he was able to overtake Stan Mathabata, and he was the front runner when you look at the nominations initially. So I think that caught us by surprise, and even Gwen Ramokhoba, because she did not make it to the ballot at all. But at the very last minute, she came in and she was nominated for the treasurer position, and she got it as well.
Yes, there were one or two surprises, obviously, and I think myself personally, I was surprised that Gwede had made it, and also the Treasurer General's position, Pulimabe, and we were at a at the press briefing earlier on, and the question that was asked of him as well, was he disappointed? But he didn't show that disappointment. But clearly, now that the top 7 is there, there's a lot of hard work that is ahead, and I think the key issue here is the position that the president Cyril Ramaphosa himself actually finds himself in, because coming into the conference, there was a lot of focus on him, and also there were huge question marks on whether he would make it or not.
Inayet, I think with Pulemabe, they made a huge mistake by pulling out very late. So yesterday, an announcement was made that Mzwandile Masina would no longer be running, but he would throw his weight behind Pule to run for the position. And I think if they had done it just a day early, it would have made some kind of difference, I believe. All the votes that went towards Masina could have gone to Pule, and they could have mobilized some more.
Fikile, was that expected?
Mbalula, not really. Mdumiseni Mtuli was the front runner all along. So there was a big expectation that he might win. But the other issue was that he was not running with anyone. He was not on any of the slates. So I think that stifled his campaign as Secretary General.
Yes, and then we've got Nomvula as well. She's in, and Paul Mashatile.
Yeah, Nomvula was a firm favorite from the word go. Although there were some people who said they were unhappy about how she handled many of the queries as the head of organizing in the ANC. So there were queries about her conduct and how she was dealing with provinces as they were doing their conferences. However, it seems she was able to convince enough people at the end of the day. And Paul Mashatile, right off the back, has been the favorite, and I think it's because he's been able to wield so much power in the ANC by occupying 3 positions in the top 6. As you can remember, Secretary General Ace Mahashule was suspended, and this opened up a position, and then late Jesu Duarte passed away earlier on this year. So Paul has been running both the Treasurer's office and the SG's office of the ANC. So he's been wielding a lot of power in the party, and he's used this to his advantage.
Yes. Now, just looking at the position that the president finds himself in now, that he's back now and he's got a new lease of life. A second term of office is definitely on the cards for him. But will he be able to make a clean break from all the shenanigans, from what has been playing out within the ANC with this team now in place?
I can say that the current top 7 of the ANC is dominated by the president's allies. Um, he's in a very fortunate position because if you look at those who have been elected, almost 5 out of 7 were part of the president's campaign and slate. So that would be the position of Secretary General that Mbalula got, the one of second Deputy Secretary General, which Marupani Ramakgopa got, the one Gwen Ramakgopa got, and as well as Gwede Mantashe. So he is sitting in pole position, and he's in charge of the top 6 at the moment. But what will determine his power will be the election of the additional members of the ANC NEC, which will be 80 members. And I think that his team has to work hard enough to have a majority, because that's the highest decision-making body of the ANC between conferences. And they will be very important in the running of the ANC and policy going forward. Step aside issues that could directly affect the president himself. So, the Renew slate, the Renew 22 slate has to work hard to ensure that they get as many seats as possible.
Well, you mentioned 5 out of 7. Someone earlier mentioned to me 5.5 out of 7. So I don't know where the half comes from. But obviously, I'll leave you to comment on that. But I think the other critical issue is looking at the NEC. And we know that the nominations have gone in as well. And the makeup of the NEC, who's going to be in, who's going to be out.
I mean, when nominations came out, what I can say is that the top 10 highest voted were young people in the ANC. That was definitely quite evident. Only one person was from the older generation, who is Mam Toko Didiza, but the rest are really former youth leaguers, people who appeal to the younger generation. As you know, that Sihle Zikalala appeared number 1 on the list, so it means that he is the most popular in the party at the moment. But nominations, as we can see, or as we've seen, don't mean anything in the long run. You could be the front runner in terms of nominations, but anything can change at the last minute. So at the moment, I know that there is a mobilization behind the scenes to make sure that certain people get into the NEC. It will be an 80-member NEC, of course. So there's a lot of space, moving space for possible candidates.
Yes, and also what is important is the organization's been talking about organizational renewal. But for me, what is more important is credibility renewal. And this is where the president has got a job in terms of who he keeps close to him, who he appoints. And also, we don't want to relive what we've been going through in the last few years.
Yeah, so I think the organizational renewal of the ANC has been kind of synonymous with the step aside guidelines of the party. And I think that they need to broaden the scope and start looking at it as a way to really refresh the party more than anything. I think they need to look at bringing in young leaders. It should be about generational mix. It should be about keeping the ANC relevant today and turning a liberation movement into a viable political party. I think that shift needs to be made.
Yes.
Because they can no longer depend on their historical background for votes.
Exactly. And just from a policy perspective, because we know there's a lot of discussion that has been taking place with regard to policy, the various commissions. Are we expecting much to come out as far as policy is concerned?
I think definitely, because most of the resolutions which were made by the ANC in 2017 have not been implemented. We do know that there was a stumbling block in terms of the land redistribution without compensation. It went to Parliament and they couldn't get the 2/3 majority. The nationalization of the SARB was not done. So there are so many issues that the ANC needs to look at going forward and make sure that they are able to pass certain regulations, laws, to ensure that their policy is actually it's used in Parliament and also in the country. Yeah.
Yes. What does this actually mean for President Cyril Ramaphosa himself, having come out of the whole issue surrounding Palapala, the Section 89 report, and now that he's got this vote of confidence? I mean, how would he actually manage himself and manage the organization, the government going forward?
I think it's quite telling what we've seen in the run up to the national conference. Ramaphosa has been able to sway the NEC to his favor, and this has meant that he has escaped any kind of consequences from the party. The party deciding that they're going to vote against the adoption of the Section 89 report was quite telling of where the ANC stands. So they are backing Ramaphosa. They are ensuring that he stays the president because the polling from the party, the last three polls, as I understand, show that Ramaphosa is more popular than the party itself. So they are dependent on him to be the face of the 2024 election campaign. And that is one of the reasons why they will back him without any doubt.
Yes, and just from a unity perspective, are we going to see this show of unity within the ANC and also looking at the RET faction in terms of how they are going to respond to the outcome of this conference in the elections?
My concern is that just like 2017, the margins might be so narrow that there is a literal divide in the party. And we will see that play out throughout the next couple of months. I have no doubt that the RET faction or those who are supporting former health minister Zweli Mkhize are going to fight until the bitter end. I do believe they're going to fight for those NEC positions because if they do get some form of majority, they'll be able to, sway some decisions in their favor. So it's not over now. I think that yes, he has power in the top 7 officials, but more work needs to be done for him to have a firm grip on the party.
Yes, and also just looking at some of the senior figureheads within the ANC, I'm talking of the likes of Lindiwe Sisulu. The question is, did she miscalculate? Because she's obviously going to be out in the political wilderness by the sound of things. Someone mentioned to me yesterday that Pravin Gordhan is not going to be on the NEC. Dr. Dlamini Zuma is another one. And of course, the man himself, the former president, Jacob Zuma.
So the issue here with the senior officials, I think with Sisulu, I didn't agree in the way she conducted her campaign. The issue here was that I think she was doing it in the wrong way. Instead of showing us and telling us which policy she supports and the kind of structure the ANC should be, she really went out on a kind of an insult. Insulting people, writing pieces which were offensive to major arms of the state. So I think the approach was inappropriate, and I think that that's why her campaign didn't grow much. But most of the government ministers who contested in this, I'm sure, are very worried at this point. People like Sisulu might face unemployment very soon because we are anticipating a cabinet reshuffle as the next step in the near future. So we need to just watch out for who will be in and who will be out. But as far as the likes of Pravin Gordhan and people who are aligned to the president, even if they are not in the NEC, they might just become government ministers. So there is room for them to be a part of the organization as either MPs or to be part of government.
Yes, and also clearly for the president, the challenge is going to be great because he's going to now have to navigate himself around this new top 7, working with a brand new NEC, because we know that there are going to be changes and also this new direction that the ANC is taking, but at the same time to still continue with all the other challenges that we as a country are facing, ESCOM, all the other issues, and also some of the projects that he had embarked upon. And that was the reason why continuity was also important, so that the momentum still stays.
Yeah, that was the sentiment generally, that he's had 5 years, give him another 5 years, let's see what he can do. We don't think that things can be turned around in just 5 years. We know the state our country was in 2017, and things have gotten worse because of COVID-19. So let's give Cyril Ramaphosa a second chance and a second term, just like any ANC president, to complete his work and his mandate.
Well, let's see what happens. I'm sure, interesting times that we are living in, and you certainly will be following developments very closely, as all of us are. But I'm sure very, very tiring as well, being the last few days here at the conference.
I am so done. I can't wait to go on holiday.
Well, I think we all feel the same. Queenin, thank you very much for that and your time with us here at the conference venue. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, Queenin Masuabi, political reporter with the Daily Maverick, with us, and we're still going to bring you a lot more analysis coming through to you today from Nazareth. So stay with us.